So I'm creating this video to kind of throw a little light and exposure on the industry that I formerly was working in. I've been working in the cannabis industry in Michigan for more than 10 years now, and this comes with a couple caveats here. So before it went legal, it was medically legal, and I've had my medical card since pretty much the very beginning. I'd consider that close to the golden age of the industry. It was before complete and total corporate takeover. And when I say that, I mean a couple things. Not just like in an external out of state corporation like big pharma or something like that, but it's pretty much been oversaturated and overrun with moguls, property owners, um, essentially anyone with money wanted to jump into this business and get a stranglehold on it right away. And so when I say that, you got to think about the ethics of majority of those types of people, the morality of most of them, how a lot of them accrued that wealth, and what they had to do uh, to justify behaving the way that they did. Um, Now, I'm not here to talk down to anybody, but with my personal experience, I can very easily say that, like I stated before, close to 10 years ago, it was the golden age, meaning little to no corporate greed. It was discovery. It was the ironing out of the details of the business, the creation time frame, and these methods were developed that pretty much run the industry nowadays. They were developed 10 years ago, um, and improved upon, very, very much so improved upon. And um, a lot of the people that began in this industry and during that time frame, 10 plus years ago even, um, you're not going to find a lot of them having anything good to say about where the industry is at now. Now, there are exceptions, but they are the exceptions and not the rule. The industry is by and large very scummy, in my opinion, and I'll go into detail with my specific experience in that. So, Lit Labs was my first exposure to the industry, and that had been ran by a very good, close personal friend of mine. And we, I was young, he's a little bit older, and I didn't take it as seriously as I should have, as seriously as he did. For him being a business owner, he had to take it seriously, and I was a worker. Granted, I was the number one guy, but I still lacked ambition in this realm. And that's on me. That's my bad, and I have nothing negative really to say about that individual. Um, Worked his ass off. He barely slept, and I still did a lot of sleeping. It didn't didn't affect me in that regard. So um, I can't trash him. Excuse me. So we'll leave that there. Now he worked so hard in the business that I helped him develop and helped him create. Um, he was able to essentially merge Lit Labs into a corporate entity with I won't get very specific, a gentleman that his family owns a lot of car dealerships here. and and the largest hemp farm in Michigan, and which is spread out over the entire state, several farms, several hemp farms, and they were basically a CBD, different cannabinoid type of company. They didn't really focus on THC, which is essentially the life and blood of the business. Anyone around marijuana knows that the cannabinoids that don't get you high are great and all, um, but unless you're fighting cancer or something like that, you know very little of them because there isn't a very big market for them. The market is for high THC cannabis, which is smokable marijuana, um, whether flower or in concentrate form or edible form. And so that I always thought was, a great thing that he was able to accomplish. He essentially was able to sell out and secure himself a future at this company as not just a manager but as a partner, because he brought a brand that he created, I helped develop, um, with him. So he brought a name that people knew, and this was important, um, in order to get sales off right away. I will always be a little conflicted about how I left that job. I was fired, and the reason I was fired was because the reason I was fired is because of my unprofessionalism. Um, they'd given me the position of manufacturing manager, and so I was in charge of the gummy line. I was in charge of writing and creating the standards of practice that they still use, and I was good at that. I was good at my actual job. Um, However, managing individuals that I knew from the more black market medical marijuana days was not something that I was very good at. It's different when you know these people personally. You you don't talk to them professionally as an employee. You talk to them more as a friend in certain situations, and that didn't seem to work out very well for me. Uh, Long story short, I got in an argument with my head chef, and while I won't blame him for the situation either, because the reality of it is he and I could argue, and then in an hour we could just be fine and talk to each other as men, as most guys do. But in a corporate setting, you don't want to have that, and I understand it now. Um, and I understood it then. It's just that some people really get under your skin, and despite what knowing what you should and shouldn't do or say, sometimes people just really piss you off. And that was me and him. We were just pretty much always at odds. And again, I really don't have anything against the guy. He just annoyed me, and that's pretty much as far as I go. And I don't really hide how I feel in those situations, especially when I'm the boss. Like, get out of my fucking face, right? So that resulted in me being let go, um, and I was fired from that. And again, I I'm not going to go into a huge, lecture about how they were corporate scum or something like that, because the reality was that that really had nothing to do with that position, that firing either. Um, I'm gonna about to get to the point of this actual video here. After that, I had kind of taken a break from the industry, I got a job doing HVAC with a buddy of mine, which I'm eternally grateful for helping me out in that time period. Um, yeah, I'm intelligent enough to figure out HVAC. I did a lot of wiring and stuff, but as far as my desire to move up in that job, it wasn't there. I had put a bunch of time and effort into the previous job, creating SOPs, learning different types of software regarding the industry, metric, which is a regulation, essentially a tracking software. Uh, and so I was primed to do something big, in my opinion, in the industry. And so my buddy that gave me the HVAC job, he knows a pretty big dispensary owner here in Michigan. The dispensary's name is Bazanzo's in Walled Lake, Michigan, and it's a weird name, but it's a great place. And even now, I wouldn't not recommend checking it out because the dispensary itself and the owner of the dispensary I have actually no issue with. Unfortunately, he got involved with a couple people that are uh, just some more just slimier individuals. I have no issue saying that. They're scum. And so I had approached my friend and was like, hey, talk to so and so. I'd love to get a job. I hear they're opening up a processing facility. And unfortunately, the processing facility is out in Lansing, which is quite a ways away from where I work. But I was driving to Ann Arbor every day for work anyway, which is almost the same distance. So, whatever. I was going to give it a shot because my plan and what I ended up achieving there was what I wanted to do. It just ended up not working out. And I'll explain why. Um, I eventually got hired in as the lab manager, the in charge of research and development. I was tasked with creating a premium product line for the company. Um, the processor did not go by Bazanzo's as a brand. The brand that I worked under and the company I actually worked under is called True Health MI, True Health Michigan. I assume the MI is Michigan. I never really thought about it or cared. Um, True Health, which is ironic, but anyway. Um, so yeah, so I got hired in there. I started getting to work right away. I told them what I needed. Cat sneezing. Um, I told them what I needed, and they got me. I gave them a list of equipment, and they got me what I needed. Most of it, what I asked for, and a lot of it, a cheaper, shittier version of what I wanted. But I kind of expected that. Um, so I got to work, and I created a cartridge line to the specs, the exact specifications that they wanted. Um, it was like a mood enhanced cartridge line where I infused carts not only with terpene flavors, but these enhancers that were essentially just different profiles of terpenes that elicit a specific feeling, um, similar to um, similar to what you would like an incense type of a thing where you would burn and it would either calm you or it would give you uh, energy, something like that. So so I did that. And those got good reviews, which I knew they would. Um, then I started doing. an infused joint line for them. And I took their dumb ideas and I worked on them. And essentially, what I came back with was an easier, faster version of what they wanted. Because they wanted to do certain things with, glues and other additives on a paper that just weren't necessary. And I ended up figuring out how to do it without any of that garbage. So they were happy about that. And right around that time, we're doing soft launches on the joints, which are called the cart line and the joint line were ill exotics. The joints are called snow whites. They were essentially terpene infused flower spiked with THCA because the flower that they gave me to work with was always shit. It was always weak, so it needed to be spiked with THCA, which when exposed to heat just turns into delta 9 THC for the most part. So I was spiking the potencies up, and that was going good. And then the joints would that weed, that infused weed, would get put into a joint. I would then infuse the joint with live resin, and then the joint would be coated with THCA powder, hence the Snow White, because it would be a very, very powdery looking joint. Essentially, if you've ever seen a Jeter is covered in keef, and ours is covered in white powder, which is THCA. They were set to compete with Jeter. Jeter comes in 5-pack minis and stuff like that, and we had the same type of thing, and it was going good. All the while in the background, in the back of my head, when I first started at this job, I'd been told that after a month, I'd be my pay rate would be adjusted. It'd be negotiating. I'd be negotiating for a higher pay because, especially driving over an hour to work every day, 5 days a week, um, almost 3 hours round trip each day. I was not getting paid what I deserved, and that's not a greed thing. I didn't want a ton more money, but at my previous job in Ann Arbor, I had gotten used to getting paid a certain amount of money, and so that's what I wanted. That's what I expected. Especially now that I'm the only person in this lab and I'm in charge of it, and essentially the brains behind it. And things had just been building at that point, and we were getting close to a hard launch. We'd sent out these Snow Whites and these carts, and people liked them, and we were testing the waters of things. And it eventually just came to a head, and I couldn't really deal with it anymore. So one day I was just feeling fed up, and I essentially told my boss that, look, I'm not happy with the situation going on. Now I'll preface this. This is not to point my finger at a race of people, but anyone that's watching this video in Michigan will know what I mean when I say that the partners that the owner of Bazanzo's got into business with are 3 Chaldean brothers. Sit on that one for a second. So, when you talk about the marijuana industry in Michigan, it's hard to talk about it without talking about Chaldeans. It's just the way it is. Dearborn is close. to Detroit, and so there's quite a population. Anyway, I had told one of the brothers that was my direct boss that I wasn't happy and that I'm pretty much going to get out of here for the day because, you know, I'm not getting paid enough as it is, and I'm taking shit from these morons left and right. I'm just, I'm good. I'm good on feeling used and abused. That was August 30th of this year, 2024. Um, I went to come back to work after not getting an answer from him when I said that to him. So I go to come back to work on the following weekday, which was a Tuesday. It was the day after Labor Day. To my pass key card not working. No one had told me that I was fired. These cocksuckers let me drive an hour and a half to work without telling me that I was fired. And so, and that ended that. Um, well, I thought that ended that. As I went to file for unemployment, they tried to lie to the unemployment agency and tell them that I quit when I didn't quit. Um, I was probably very close to quitting, but I would have put in my 2 weeks like a decent person, and I would have given them the Three Brothers Circus, as I call it, an advanced ape training seminar. I would have trained them on how to do what I do because they're all too stupid to figure it out on their own. I know this because the product lines are not being produced. They're not being manufactured. They're sitting there, their thumbs up their asses. Um, and I think they're happy about it. I think they like that they have a reason, they have an excuse now to fail. Because if I'd just kept doing my job and they weren't able to sell the shit, well, that's not my fault. That would have been their fault, and they would have just been exposed as the failures that they are. So it, in the back of my mind, I think they're actually kind of happy that they have this excuse of me. Anyway, the unemployment scam that they tried to pull didn't work. Um, I had receipts. I had uh, I had text messages and such conversations um, that pointed to, you know, I wouldn't have shown up. I wouldn't have driven an hour and a half to fucking Lansing if I had quit. Like I wouldn't have shown up to work. It was a waste of gas. It was a waste of time. You know what I mean? I had to wake up really. I wake up really early to get there on time. So, fuck that, right? I mean, there would have been no point for that. And so that's pretty much the long and short of it. I'm now on unemployment, trying to make this work. Please subscribe. And if you're ever in the Oakland County area, feel free to stop by Bazanzo's. Um, don't buy any of the house brand, which is a True Health, Ill Exotics, or Snow Whites. And not just because I am not there to be the one to create them anymore, which they were gonna be. They were going to be a premium product line. That I can tell you because I know what I'm doing. But the reason I say don't buy their house brand is because the grower, the brother that was in charge of growing, Daniel, he is not good at what he does. They couldn't pass a microbial test to save their lives. And they kind of cheat their way around the CRA, which is the Cannabis Regulatory and Affairs Commission, whatever it is. They know certain labs that will take a specific sample that they want them to take, and they will treat this sample so that the sample will absolutely pass testing, where the bulk is not treated and the bulk will fail if it were tested, which it isn't. And so they get this micro sample tested, the bulk is dirty, the sample passes, and then they'll sell the bulk at the dispensary. And like I said, they can't pass a microbial test, which is mold, essentially. Aspergillus. Don't sleep on it. These idiots had the storage room at 70% humidity, and they wonder why they can't pass a fucking test. It's called dehumidifiers, guys. I brought it up several times. No one gives a shit. So that's that. If you stop by Bazanzo's, don't buy the house brand. Spend your money on something worthwhile. Or don't go. There's plenty of dispensaries. Anyway, that'll probably do it. I think I aired out the dirty laundry that I wanted to regarding this, and I hope you subscribe. I hope someone sees this, because the industry is grimy. They do a lot of tricks, and they use and abuse a lot of people to meet their ends. And there are a couple good people in it, but by and large, you have to really watch it. Yeah. And I learned that the hard way, obviously. And now I'm going back to school because fuck this industry. And I've actually not smoked weed in over a month. What's the date here? 10:30. So yeah, it's definitely been over a month. Oh, almost 2 months. Wow. Yeah. Check you later. Have a good night. Sleep easy. Peace out.